Hello everyone and welcome to Otaku Go here on the Gunpla Network. As always, I'm the Spicer, and today's review of the History Box Volume 5 Frieza from Banpresto is brought to you by none other than those fine folks over at Chi-Chi's Anime. Chi-Chi's Anime is an online retailer that also frequents cons here in the US. They have a variety of options online, but also some exclusive for con-goers. You can catch them at Kawacon later in February. If that date has passed, I do apologize, but all of their con information on the next one they're going to is over on their website. With variety online and in person, they're going to have just about anything you're looking for. So when you're checking out that vast catalog of theirs, don't forget to use the promo code GUNPLA10 to save yourself 10% off. Instead of giving you my overall thoughts now, because they're the same thoughts, I have my conclusions usually. I'm just going to save those for the conclusions and jump right into things, which is why you're seeing the box now. Now, the Banpresto boxes are pretty similar usually, and this isn't too far out of their wheelhouse, but the history box of series, I suppose, has their own kind of type of boxing. So you have your little graphics down towards the bottom, history box, you have the titling, you have the Banpresto and Bandai logos, the Dragon Ball Z logo, and then you have the same picture of this figurine, this Frieza, in a variety of different ways. So there's kind of a wider zoomed out shot, then you have two zoomed in shots on the side and the back, and then you have a black and white one on the other side with Dragon Ball Z history box down there, so you know which series this is coming from because the history box is much smaller than their regular figures. Now, talking about the figure itself, it's actually pretty impressive for something so small. Well, we'll take a look at a scale difference between another Dragon Ball Z Banpresto thing in a minute, but they pack a lot of detail into something this small, which gives me a lot of hope that the other history box things, because I know there's one from Dragon Ball, I know there's one for Goku going Super Saiyan the first time, that those are jam-packed with detail, and you have that with Frieza here. Now, of course, there could be more going on, but this is effectively still a prize figure. This is not several $100s. You're not going to get the immaculate shading in every single crevice, but you do get kind of the damaged Dragon Ball Z scuff marks all over the place. You have a bunch of like wrinkling and sculpt detail in the muscles and the face where he's wincing, and then you have kind of the cuts and stuff in the tail, and then the actual cut at the end of the tail. And the rocks are nicely painted. They're kind of the really only thing that's got a lot of paint on it. It has some shading, and it looks good. Like, this is a really nice display piece to go along with the rest of your Dragon Ball Z stuff and just fill that weird space you have between things. Now, as we kind of look at the top of the figurine here, the face is done incredibly well. You've got some fold marks and some paint there for kind of his eyebrows where it's kind of gnarled, where he's wincing. One eye is closed, the other eye is open with this glaring red paint in there that's really just striking. It's very Frieza. It is Frieza. That's what you expect. But it's very well done. All the paintwork is super clean here. The mouth is done well. The nose isn't sculpted too sharp or too softly. You have the big purple dome on his head that I guess is part of his head. It's done well. It's, just kind of paint. There's nothing going on there, but it is nice there. It's not sloppy. It's not covering the white. It's very thoroughly and consistently coated as well, and it's much glossier than the white, which is nice. As you move down the chest, you get to see some of those ripples and scuffs and stuff, and then you have the actual damage mark there. All the damage marks here are done great, and I feel like, well, they could have thrown in a couple of more. It's a nice balance. For something this small, you don't want a bunch of them because then it feels too busy. This is something that a lot of like older Mobile Suit and action figures from the 90s and early 2000s had, where they'd panel line them, but due to their scale, they would look so busy and messy. Here, they walked a very fine line, and it doesn't do that, which is very nice. You have the arm, which is kind of outstretched for him to do like the little his little attack. I don't actually know what it is. I don't know if he has a name for that attack, but he's wincing, he's got his tail cut, he's damaged up a little bit, but he's still, primed and ready to fight. You have the scuff mark on the chest and then down on the lower torso by the abs. You have the purple piece that goes down there. Once again, much higher gloss than the rest of the body. All of the purple is done very consistently, which is nice. Like, there's not a weird difference in texture or finish or coating. It's all done almost exactly the same, which is great. But you do see some folds down as well by the hips and down into the muscles on the arms and the legs, which is very nice. A lot of, like I said, they just pack a ton of detail into such a very small package, which is really a testament in and of itself, right? That if you do have some higher end Dragon Ball Z figurines and you put this next to it, scale wise obviously it's going to be pretty different, but in terms of detail it's going to be pretty on par with most of the stuff you're going to have, whether that's your more regular Banpresto stuff or your Grandista stuff or maybe some of the higher end things as well. But you get a lot of nice sculpting on the head, the torso, the back. And then down towards the legs, you still have some stuff going on, which is really nice. The kind of boot portion has some sculpted lines in there. You have the sculpted muscles on the thighs, the kneecap. And then you have the feet, which are actually grabbing the rock, which is nice. It does plug into the rock. But they're molded in a very specific way. The feet go in, and then they look like they're kind of gripping the rocks, which is cool. And then you get the rock. And the rock, for being just a base, is done very well, and I think it really adds a nice little splash of extra color, especially like extra warmth, to Frieza. Now, of course, Frieza's not like a warm character, but this is at a point in the Namek saga where things are starting to kind of fall apart for Namek. So it is nice you have the rock here. It's not like the green grasslands or any of that. It's painted very nicely. You have a bunch of different shading work. This is, for all intent and purpose, like one of the best like rock bases, which is weird to say, that I've seen. It's just done very well, and there's not like, I'm not going to go on about it, but the whole package is very consistent in terms of its paint work, its sculpt work, and its design work. So overall, with it being scaled down, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. As you see here with Vegeta, it is quite a bit smaller. But when you're looking at the two comparatively, there's not a vast gap in terms of sculpt work and paint work and stuff. It matches very well, and I think Bandai kind of separating the smaller portion into the history box line, then having your more like regular variants of whatever Banpresto stuff is going on, and then your Grandista stuff, all having roughly the same kind of quality, gives you a lot of display options, which is really nice, because regardless whether you've got big long shelves or you're working with detolfs, you're going to have weird gaps, and these little history box things add really iconic moments of characters that are, of course, iconic in and of themselves, that you can just kind of slot in there and it works. Even though it doesn't fit all the way on Vegeta's base here, if you wanted to go that route, and you fully could, you can do it, right? Or you could just, set it next to a shelf. You set it next to it on the shelf, but it still matches, which is my point. This is really, really nice. I know, like I said, I've seen a few other ones out there. This is volume 5, so of course there's more. This partnered with like the Super Saiyan Goku, of course, are going to work really, really well together. And the more they bring out of these, the more I'm really interested to see what other characters get this kind of treatment, and if they start to get more towards a busier paint scheme or how that goes, because the Goku has more detailing. Obviously, there's more color on him, but it doesn't feel too busy once again. So overall, I'm impressed. If you like Dragon Ball Z, this is something that is just a nice little extra to put on your shelf or your desk at work or whatever, and it's not going to take up a lot of space. It's still going to be very visually impressive. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below if you've got any questions. I'll do my best to answer them. And if you've got this, what you thought about it. Did you enjoy it? Do you have other the history box stuff? What do you think about the line overall? Anyway, I've been the Spicer here with the Gunpla Network. As always, friends, stay safe and keep on collecting.